Ho ho ho! Hello again, Cindy. How are you? I'm glad the package got to your house safely. I was worried about the dog ornament. I don't know if I wrapped it safely enough, but I hope it didn't break. I'm glad it got there. I thought that even if you don't hang those kind of ornaments up on the tree, I thought it might be able to stand up on a desk or something. I actually have some animals like that here on my desk. I can show you. I have a grizzly bear. I like bears. I don't know why. So I have a bear, and even if I'm Santa, see, I have to have a polar bear. When I was a kid growing up, I liked polar bears for some reason. I don't know. And I like dogs, but I couldn't find any dogs, so I have the closest relative. It's a wolf, and it's just a little guy. But they hang out with me here on Santa's desk. I got a chance to look at the end of your gallery. It was the last page. I see a picture of Kobe. Wow, that's a good-looking dog. When I was growing up, the first dog I had an experience with, her name was Cleo, after Cleopatra, and Cleo looked very much like Kobe. She was a very big black German Shepherd, and she was really friendly. I remember she would run around the backyard. It was a fenced-in yard, and she would do laps around the fence, and I used to jump up and down on the porch and get her excited. I really liked Cleo. My first dog, actually, that when I had grown up was, like I said, the black lab, a half husky, and I'll try to put a picture up on the website somehow and get it to you anonymously. He's a good-looking dog, but like I said, he lived 16 great years, and I miss him every day. As I was looking through your messages through your profile, you said your husband was actually watching the videos and writing down some games that I had suggested. So what I did, I went back and I made like a top 10 of games from your profile that I think you guys would enjoy. If you want to hear a little bit more in depth, I have a couple minutes here. We'll start off with 1960. Like I said, it's a two-player game that's really easy. It's a card-driven game, so you start the board starts with different influence markers, and your candidate starts in their home state, and you just move around and you add cubes to each state. It's really that easy. It gets complicated when you start thinking about the debate and what cards you have to save versus what cards you have to play. I found that Kennedy has a distinct advantage because there are more Kennedy cards than there are Nixon cards. That's not to say Nixon can't win. I've seen, especially in tournament play with both strong players, it depends on how the cards play out. I've seen Nixon win about 48% of the time, which, at the advantage that Kennedy has in the cards, that's pretty incredible for Nixon. Blockus, again, we talked about in the first video. It's pretty cool with 4 players. It doesn't work at all with 3 players, I don't think. But with 2 players, you control 2 colors, so you can use one color to try to score and one color to try to block, or just use both colors to try to score. So I think that's a pretty cool 2-player game. Doesn't work with 3 if you're going to try to include your son. What will work with your son if you're playing 3 is Carcassonne, obviously. Carcassonne's one of the easiest games to learn. Even though my brother-in-law had to read the rules to me, farming is really difficult. So if you hadn't played it yet, you might want to play a couple practice games without farming. The farming gives you a lot of points at the end, and it can really, if you're in last place but you have a lot of farmers out there that are scoring a lot of points, you will catch up and you might even win. But if you play without the farming, the scoring is just beyond simple. And it's fun for 2, 3, 4. I think with the expansion it goes up to 6, but if you just have the base set, I think you can play 5. But 3 players works really well. Cuba is a game that I think works with 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure if it goes up to 5. I haven't played it in a while. But the Cuba is one of those games that it feels like you're playing other games. Like Puerto Rico, you do a lot of shipping. Well, there's shipping in Cuba. So if you like that aspect of Puerto Rico, you might like that aspect of Cuba. If you've played Agricola, you have your own little board, your own little farm. Well, that's kind of how it is in Cuba. You have your own little plantation. And it's multiplayer solitaire, but it's not, because you interact on the board and there's different things you can do. And if someone else does one thing, you can't do another. So it's a fun game that I'd suggest with 3 people. Works with 2 though. For Sale. I know you like card games. For Sale is a quick card game that I think you need 3 players to play. But like I said, it took me 5 minutes. One of my friends taught it to me. It was a quick filler game. He taught it to me in 5 minutes. I think we played a full game in about 15 or 20. We were playing pretty quick, but it's not a drag it out, slow down game like some others that I'll recommend here. So that's the top 5. We're going in alphabetical order. If we have time in the video, I might try to rank them here. Notre Dame is another one I saw. That can be played 2, 3, or 4 player. So if you want to include your son, if he wants to play, that's cool. Notre Dame, to me, the toughest part about that was setting up the board. The way the board is shaped, I don't even know if it's a polygon of some kind, but the cathedral in the center, you get 3 of them. Because if you're playing with 3 players, you use the triangle. If you play with 4 players, you use the square. With more players, you'll use the hexagon, or yeah, I guess hexagon is 5. That gives you flexibility in how many boards you play with. When you play with 2 players, you play with a dummy board, because there are little treasure tokens that you'll move your carriage around to collect. Those tokens, my dad gets carried away with them. He loves those, and he doesn't focus on eliminating rats. What I've found is, early in the game, you have to take care of your rat problem. Even if you don't have one, you have to be able to control it, because in round 2, in the second phase, my dad's he's working with 7 and 8 rats, and you can't function like that. You need to be able to control them early. Pillars of the Earth is next, alphabetically. I talked about Cuba. Pillars in Cuba are pretty similar, but the differences between the 2 lie in the cards. Pillars of the Earth comes with different cards, and if you get the expansion, you get even more cards, and that changes replayability. You're always going to have the certain number of workers that you can put out in the fields, and there's always going to be a certain number of fields that you can go out and get resources. But what you do with the resources is going to change every game, because there are certain cards you can buy and certain cards that you can actually just use your master builder to go get for free. So that's a fun game that changes a lot. And you'll find with this Santa, I like to play the same games, but I like to play games that change. So it's not the same, if that makes any sense at all. Tikal is a game that works with 2 or 3 or 4. There's 2 different ways to play Tikal. There's the auction version, which is the more for skilled players. If you don't like the luck of the draw, what tile you pick, you can play the auction. I don't like auction with 4 players. It just takes a long time. It is the more skilled game, but it just takes a long time. With 2 players, auction is really a fun variant, but with 2 players, I find the scores get really high. You'll score in the 200s. With 4 players, if you score 100, you're going to win. Vegas Showdown. Vegas Showdown with 3 players now, not with 2, because I don't think it supports 2. With 3 players, there's a really cool auction mechanic where you bid on certain things, but like Puerto Rico, if you don't buy a building, you put a doubloon on it. If you don't buy a building in Vegas Showdown, it gets cheaper. So it gets more enticing for you to buy later on. That aspect is really cool. And you're building a casino in front of you, and you're trying to score points by filling up your sheet, filling up your card with yellow gaming and blue restaurants and buffets and things like that. Excuse me for 1 second. Santa is still sick. And finally, since I needed 10 for the top 10, I threw zombies in there in case you liked a dice, scary horror type of game. That's a really easy game to learn. You have a piece, you're walking around a board as you build it, similar to Carcassonne, and as you walk around, you're going to be encountering zombies. You'll get bullets and hearts. Hearts are your life, kind of like The Legend of Zelda, and the bullets allow you to supplement your die roll. And unfortunately, I have 10 seconds left on this video. I'm probably going to do another one, so I'll see you in part 5.